So today we're going to be talking about code of ethics, which is, again, one of your, something that you do have to address in your mentoring and mentee information. So you do need to know about the code of ethics. So a lot of people I've actually heard from multiple views that people don't think that charter schools have to follow the state code of conduct, but that is not true, we do. Actually, according to the Franklin Academy Handbook, in addition to compliance with companies' regulations and policies, the company expects employees to comply with all state, Florida Board of Education administrative rules, including not limited to the Florida Department of Education's Code of Ethics, principles of professional conduct for the educational professional, which can be found on the Florida Department of Education website. Compliance with Florida's Code of Ethics and professional conduct is the responsibility of every employee. Disregarding or failing to comply could lead to disciplinary action up to and including termination of your employment. So you do have to follow these ethics, as all public schools do, because we are public school. Again, state statutes. So basically, to summarize this up, it's to say that for our profession, we are noble, even though to some people this is not a noble profession. But we are looked as role models, citizens that are here to do a good to our world and for our students. And that if you are not using good judgment, if you're not using protocol, if you are not doing the things that you need to be doing, then there will be violations to those. So now we have the breaking part of it. So when I look at ethics, I can just kind of looking at it, and I broke it apart into 3 different obligations. There's the obligation to the professional as an education. There's the obligation to the students, and then obligation to the public. So let's talk about your obligations to your students. So this is going to go through each statute and examples from each one. Don't laugh. We'll laugh, but it's funny. Shall make reasonable effort, because some of these have happened, and you probably by show of hands, do you know or have had experience of people around you who have been fired from something ethically happening? Like, raise your hand. It happens all the time. Shall make reasonable effort to protect the students from conditions harmful to learning and or to the students' mental or physical health or safety. Example would be, you shouldn't have your students exposed to dangerous tools or chemicals during a science lab. You're obviously putting them in danger if you're letting them use knives or dangerous chemicals. You shouldn't be doing that. Another one, shall not unreasonably restrain a student from independent action in pursuit of learning. So I had to actually ask a couple people what this actually meant. And this was more of, if a student wants to learn more about a subject or pursue it more further, you need to encourage it, not stop it. So telling a student not to pursue their own investigation on whether pollution leads to climate change. If we just tell them to stop right there, like, no, don't go Google it at home, just, it is what it is, I have already written down, you're restraining them from learning more that they want to learn on themselves. Then we have, shall not unreasonably deny a student access to diverse points of view. So that a big one would be telling students that the Big Bang Theory was the only way evolution ever happened. That's been a big topic. But you have to give both sides. You should never be giving one side, you should be giving both sides and never very biased on how it happens. Shall not intentionally suppress or distort subject matter relevant to a student's academic program. Leaving a child out of a game, or having them sit out during a spelling activity, you're leaving them out of that educational opportunity, then you're violating that. More on the obligation to a student. Shall not intentionally expose a student to unnecessary embarrassment or disparagement. Laughing or making fun of a student who has frequent bathroom accidents to the whole class. So if a student of yours has a health concern where they're doing that or something else, and kids tend to make fun of that, and you're making fun of them along with them, then that's actually, you're embarrassing them. Shall not intentionally violate or deny students' legal rights. So that means not allowing them to use their accommodations. If you think that you're just being lazy. You don't need this, but if it's on their 504, they need to have those accommodations. That's their right to have them. Shall not harass or discriminate against any student on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, age, national or ethnical origin, political beliefs, marital status, handicap condition, sexual orientation, social or family background. Shall make reasonable effort to ensure that each student is protected from harassment or discrimination. Telling a student to take off their cross necklace, telling them how boys are better than girls at sports. Actually, something, what was it, like 2 weeks ago, I actually had a student that kind of kind of teeter to this. One of my students asked me if he can bring a Bible to school, and I said yes. Because if they're allowed to bring anything religious and such, they are. You cannot deny them of that. Or expressing themselves religiously, yeah, it shouldn't be talked about, but they are legally allowed to. And then shall not exploit a relationship with students for personal gain or advantage. Playing favorites with the students who have parents that are friends with you. So if you're friends with a student, you're not giving them all A's, with their parents, because their parents are friends with you. You guys go to happy hour. You're not just playing favorites like that student you pick for everything. That's not, you can't be doing that. And then shall keep in confidence personal, identifiable, I can't even spell that, information obtained in the course of professional service, unless disclosed services, professional purposes, are required by law. So talking about confidentiality, like we should never be talking about another kid's 504 accommodations to another parent. Or when you're having a conference and they're saying the student's being mean to my student, well, you can't be like, well, that person's got a plan and this is their accommodations. You should never talk about any other students' plans, IEP, ESOL, none of that about up to other parents or even other people. Okay, now you have your obligation to the public. Shall take reasonable precautions to distinguish between personal views and those of educational institution or organization with which the individual is affiliated. So if a teacher announces on social media that he is in favor of a politician, it is required of him to disclaim that this is his personal view and not of the school. So if you want to say, I voted for so-and-so, this is what I believe in, you can't say, well, this is all Franklin, all voted for this guy, and we are all the same. So you can't be saying that stuff either. Shall not intentionally distort or misrepresent facts concerning an educational matter in direct public expression. So writing a letter to a newspaper, this was like a big thing years ago. Someone wrote a letter to the paper explaining that the school was using the funds for something else. So you can't write a letter to the newspaper saying that Franklin Academy uses the funds from the fund run to pay for catered lunches every day for the admin staff. Like, that's totally not true. So if you're writing a paper and expressing and putting that all in the news that that's not true, I'm telling you, it's not true, then you're putting out false facts. And that's, again, against code of ethics. Shall not use institutional privileges for personal gain or advantage. Using the school printer to print your wedding invitations is not allowed. You cannot do that. You're using the printer for your personal gain. Like, oh, I don't want to hire a printer for my invitations to my party, so I'll just use the school's printer. We shouldn't be doing that. Shall accept no gratitude, gift, or favor that might influence personal judgment. A student offers you a gift card to Starbucks in order to get a better grade. We know that should be happening. Shall not offer no gratuity, gift, or favor to obtain special advantage. Paying your coworkers to write and send your lesson plans for you. You can't do that. Sorry. Sorry, Calvin. Shall remain honest in professional dealings. So being honest about your parent communication with your principal. Don't claim that you made a phone call with them when you really didn't. It's about integrity. Knowing that what you did, if you really did it, be honest about it. Shall not, on a basis of race, color, religion, sex, age, nationality, ethnicity, political beliefs, marital status, handicap condition, if otherwise qualified, or social and family background, deny a colleague professional benefits or advantage to participation in any professional organization. So regardless of who you work with, you should always include them in things. So not allowing someone on your team with a hearing problem to be involved in your team meeting, or if you know that somebody's got some type of issue and you're not allowing them to be a part of your team meetings or team events, then you are not following your protocol here. Shall not interfere with colleagues, exercise political or civil rights and responsibilities. So telling someone in the staff lounge to stop talking about who they voted for in the election. That's their right. They are allowed to express who they voted for. They're allowed to. You can't stop it. You can't go up to them and shove it. You've got to let them speak. Shall not engage in harassment or discriminatory conduct with unreasonable interferences with an individual performance, a profession, or work responsibilities, or with the orderly processes of education in which it creates a hostile, intimidating, abusive, offensive, or repressive environment, and further shall make reasonable effort to ensure that each individual is protected from such harassment or discrimination. Constantly harassing a coworker to go on a date with you, that is harassment. I mean, it is, and it happens. Or, harassing them, making fun of them, constantly putting them down in public in front of others. You know, we all work together and we all need to be as a team. We should never be going after each other, asking everybody out, those types of things. We keep it as a professional environment. There's more. Shall not make malicious or intentional false statements about colleagues. Spreading a rumor about a colleague that is pregnant when they're really not. Something you should not do. Shall not use coercive means or promise special judgment of colleagues' treatment to influence professional. Promising the interview committee a gift in order for them to agree on you being the new principal. It's not going to work. Shall not risk, this happens though, guys, unfortunately. Thank you. One's own professional qualification. So claiming that a team member is not a certified teacher when they really are. You can't be making false statements about a person's professional certificates. Shall not submit fraudulent information on any document in connection with professional activities. Lying about taking a district PD that you didn't attend, or having someone sign in for you on Raptor, in and out. You should never have someone else signing in and out for you. That's for you. It's your responsibility. Shall not make fraudulent statement or fail to disclose a material fact in one's own and others' application for a professional position. So, failing to disclose past issues such as arrest in an application. When you fill out any application, they ask you, have you been arrested? Have you been charged with a felony? You have to be honest with those answers because they can look it up. And if you're not telling the truth, you'll get even more in trouble. So you need to make sure that you're doing that. Shall not withhold information regarding a position from an applicant or misrepresent an assignment or conditions of employment. So failing to list all job requirements in a contract. That's why we have to make sure that everything in our contract says we're doing all these things. Like we have to have a duty. We have to have these things because if it's not listed in there, you didn't tell me this was a requirement, and that's failing to, it's misrepresenting the actual job. Shall provide, upon the request of a certified individual, a written statement of specific reasons for recommendations that led to the denial of increments, significant changes of employment, or termination of employment. A former employee has asked the principal why they were fired by email or letter. So if you were fired, you need to know why you were fired in a written way. You can ask for that. Shall not assist entry into or continuance in the profession of any person known to be unqualified in accordance with these principles of professional conduct of the educational profession in Florida and other applicable Florida statutes and Florida Board of Education rules. So getting the answers to state certification tests and giving them to your coworker who is failing on the test. You can't do that. So anything that you're trying to, make them better into becoming a teacher, you should not be cheating the system at all. There's more. Now I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is about self-reporting. You have 48 hours to self-report. It's so important. Self-report, 48 hours. You're in jail for technically half a day, and then you're out, and then you can have time to make a phone call. So you'll have about 24 hours left, or more, even. So really, technically, the whole day you have in jail, and then you have the other day to tell your boss that you got in jail, and you're going to be in trouble. So that includes anything though, arrest charges involving child abuse, sale of possession of a controlled substance, DUI. So reporting your DUI to Ms. Ellis in 48 hours. You have to do that. DUI, child abuse, self-report, any of those things that if you're in jail for it, you need to self-report it. Report to appropriate authorities of known allegation of violation of school code. So you need to report a coworker as well. This is called the whistleblowing. If someone is doing something unethical and you know it, you need to report it. You do not let it fly. It happens a lot. We kind of just let it, that's my friend or that's my coworker. We just kind of let it slide, but you have to report. If you see something ethically, it is your responsibility to tell someone. And with that being said, if you are to report a coworker who is in violation of code of conduct, you will not be excluded or reprimanded. Again, the whistleblowing policy, and it's the same pretty much everywhere. If you report someone, you're not going to be told is that you're a snitch. All right, you're not going to be even told that, oh, that's who so-and-so told on me. Your name won't even be out there. It's anonymous. Shall comply with the conditions of an order of an Education Practices Commission. So if you are given a disciplinary action because of what you did, you have to comply with it. If not, you have a risk of having your license taken away. Shall, as the supervising administrator, cooperate with the Education Practices Commission in monitoring the probation of the subordinate. So if you are given a disciplinary action by the state, and most likely Ms. Ellis knows about it, so she has to agree that this is the appropriate action for you and that you are disciplined, and she also has to monitor your probation period. So here are some tips and best practices, some of the things I learned from other people to avoid getting yourself into sticky situations. Never leave a student or students alone in a room. If you need to leave your classroom, like if it's a dire emergency, have your partner teacher watch both classrooms in the worst case scenario. Now, what if you don't have a connecting bathroom? You need to call someone from the front office or someone to come and watch your class for you. You should never leave students alone in the classroom, because what if something happens, something falls on them, they get hurt, you are liable for those. That's called neglect. Never be alone with a student of the opposite sex. Go to an open room, like the cafeteria, teacher's lounge. If you're tutoring a student, you should probably go to a room that is open, such as for people to see you and watch you. Never give a student your classroom key to go into your classroom to get something. I've seen this, and I've done this personally myself. I've been a violation of this. But if you think about it in theory, if they do go to open the door and they get their finger stuck in it, that's your fault. Also, if they go to get something in your room, they're alone, something falls on them, you're neglecting that. And also, it's kind of like a boundary for me personally. I know, like, that key is for me to get into my room, and what if I didn't have that key in an emergency and the kid did? So you kind of have to think about those things, like you should never give your kid the key. Never discuss another student in open areas or to parents. So the lounge especially, I know it's closed, but we do have parent volunteers that come in and out. And I know we have our days where we just kind of want to vent, but for those personal, confidential things about a student, we shouldn't be talking about it at all in a public setting. Always send a student with 2 buddies when you're leaving your classroom. I remember 2 years ago, they sent a girl up here with another student, and the student left, and she was caught wandering around the school for half the day because she didn't have buddies to go and take her to and from the clinic. So she spent her whole day walking around the school, and no one knew like where she was. So you should always have 2 buddies with the kids, especially the little ones.
Excuse me. Oh, is that for middle school too?
No, mostly for the little ones. Yeah. Always watch students during recess and during your AM, PM duty. I feel like a lot of times, like that time's for us to supervise. If something bad happens that's on your watch, you could be, again, liable for it. During your duty, we never should be having our laptops out grading papers. You should be just watching them. I mean, I know it's the most boring part of your day. It's like 15 minutes, you just staring at kids. But if a kid runs into the wall and bumps their head and there's gashing blood, you've seen it happen, you can write an incident report or anything, or if someone hits somebody, you can write a report for it. If you weren't watching it, then you don't know what to write down, and then you will be in trouble. When sending emails, remember to be respectful and confidential. Emails are public record if you are in legal trouble. There's a sunshine record. If you are, in trouble for something, they will look through your email. They will take copies of it. Everybody can see it. Never friend students or current parents or students on social media. It's just kind of taboo. Wait for them to graduate, then you can be friends. Do not kiss your students. Just don't do it. If a student hits their head during the school day or is severely sick or injured, send them to the nurse. I've seen incidents happen where kids get really hurt throughout the day, no one sends them to the clinic, and then at home they have to go right away to the hospital because they have a concussion. So please make sure you send your kids to the clinic if something bad, really bad happens. Make sure to give your students the accommodations that are given on their plan, ESOL 504. You should be documenting it on your log. And then if you have a problem with a coworker, please talk to administration about it. If it's something bad, serious, you should be talking to someone in administration. And then remember, as a teacher, you're looked as a role model, play responsibly. So again, I know lots of us go out, we like to have fun, but don't get yourself in a situation where you can get yourself in trouble. This is something I kind of learned now, but as a teacher, I didn't really know my rights or even the students' rights. So if you want to refer to school policy, there's the handbook for our school, but then like the state code of conduct, that's always on their website for the Florida Department of Education. But for educational law and your rights, as long as the students' rights too, these are the 2 books that I have, and they're really good use of resources. because there's sometimes a situation where you're thinking, am I going to violate my rights and their rights? So these are really two like great books. This one in particular is for teachers. It's really good. It literally is like, can I have a student do this? Am I allowed to do that in my classroom? This one is a really good book and explains everything in detail as far as classroom-wise. This is kind of it literally states every statute. It's about 2,000 pages long. So those are two resources if you want to know anything about those. And that's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, it had to be 15 minutes. Sorry.